Hey everybody, welcome to Board Game Heaven. My name is Raymond, and in today's video I'm gonna do an unboxing of the Wildspire Miniatures Classic Fantasy Set 1, which is this box here, which holds a whole bunch of really cool 28mm scale fantasy miniatures. But before I do, I'd like to ask you to please hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. That really helps the channel. And please also check out my Patreon page by clicking the link in the description below if you'd like to support what I do. And you can do so for less than a cup of coffee a month, and in return you will get your name in the credits of all of my videos, early access to my videos, access to Patreon exclusive content, and you automatically save up for the Board Game Heaven enamel pin. Alright, let's quickly open it up and check out all the cool stuff inside. So let's start with the Wildspire Miniatures Classic Fantasy 1 box, which has 173 miniatures. There's going to be repeats, of course, of several monsters and a whole bunch of hero characters you can play there. And they're all 28mm scale, so you know, your regular miniature game compatible, also for role-playing games, of course. And yeah, the back doesn't really have a lot of information here, just these general kind of warnings. So let's open up the box and check out all the minis. Okay, so first of all we have two leaflets which have a QR code on the back here. Yeah, just if you want to scan that. Has the monster stat sheets and the classic encounter stat sheets. That's pretty cool. And here we have all the names, which is super handy if you want to know exactly what every miniature is. So that's really nice. So this box has fantasy heroes and classic creatures combined in one box. So I'll put this to the side so I can check what is what and tell you the correct names. Then there's just some bubble wrap here with baggies, so we do not get any plastic tray inserts in this box, sadly. I kind of expected that, but the price of this set was, of course, extremely competitive. So I guess that's one of the things that they chose to not make. So yeah, I'll just actually, instead of just opening all these baggies here in front of the camera, I'm just gonna open them and show you the miniatures one by one, ordered by groups as indicated on these leaflets, and make it a bit more organized. Okay, so here's the first group. This is the Mercenary Band 1 here from the Fantasy Heroes Mercenary Guild. So I will name them as they are written here as I check them out. So first we've got the Elf Sorcerer here. So here he is up close, and you can see he's got a nice cape. He's got his hands spread out, casting a spell, no doubt, in a nice long jacket with boots underneath, and on the back just the cape, of course, long hair. So that is the Elf Sorcerer. Nicely detailed. All of these look quite nicely detailed, to be honest. He's got the choker around his neck. So that's the first one. Then we have an Elf Cleric. There you go. An Elf Cleric holding a bottle, a potion of some kind in the left hand, and a sword in the right. And she's got all kinds of stuff. There's a bag hanging around her shoulder and also on the belt. Belt is nicely detailed. Let's look at the back. There is some more stuff on the belt there. Things to hold scrolls, no doubt, or other potions, or some kind of dust. Stuff that clerics will use for their spells and for healing. Also nice detail here is the line on the cape, or on the long coat rather. She's got like the shoulder coat mantle thing. So that's also really nice. There's a headband. All right, then we've got a elf druid. An elf druid with the gnarled wooden staff. Also with some items on his belt there. Left hand open, probably again casting a spell. Long hair, there's some pointy ears poking through there. So you can tell that it's an elf, of course. And yeah, some items on the belt. Again in a long coat. So that is the elf druid. Then we have an elf ranger. So here it is up close. With, of course, a longbow, drawing an arrow. Also has some items on her belt. She's got the long hair, big ponytail, a cape, and a quiver poking out from under that cape. So that's pretty nice. Yeah, looking good. Again, nice detail also on the armor there under the coat, over the legs. I guess she's got long boots on over some kind of chainmail perhaps. So yeah, nice looking sculpt. Ready to shoot there. Next up is an elf barbarian. So here it is, a female elf barbarian. You don't see those a lot. But here she is, an elf in some kind of leather armor with fur shoulder guards, bearing two swords, wielding two swords. And in a action pose, you know, just walking forward towards the enemy. Long hair. Yeah, there's a pouch on the belt there as well. So on the right, that looks like it is a bit bent, but nothing a bit of hot water treatment can't fix. Two gladiuses, I would say. So that's that sculpt. Then we've got a half-orc paladin. Also something you don't see a lot. It's got the huge shield there, which is really nice. There's some sculpting on that. Cool looking emblem, coat of arms. He's got the mace on a chain. Heavy armor, huge pauldrons, huge boots. And yeah, looking really fierce. And on the back here, the clothing coming out from under the armor there. That is really cool. It looks very bulky. I like the shield, and even, you know, detail on the inside there, holding that shield. It's pretty good. So there you have that one. Next up is the constable. We have a constable here. So this constable looking very authoritative. Hands on the hips. I see a dagger on the belt there. He's got long hair and a long coat as well. So that is the constable. And this one is a dwarf ranger. A female dwarf ranger. Let me bring that in focus here. So she's got a crossbow and chainmail there underneath, as you can see. and big heavy boots, and also a cape, long hair, and a little bit of fur there on the shoulder as well. Big stompy boots. I like the crossbow a lot. That is something a dwarf would wield. They would have something that is mechanical over just a longbow. So that is the Dwarf Ranger. Next we have a human wizard. So this is the human wizard. He's a bit round. A round man with a beard, casting a spell from his book, his grimoire of spells, wearing a cape as well with fur. I like the fur sculpting there, a thick fur cape around the neck with a hood. And otherwise pretty classical clothing with a belt, boots. There's a chain around the neck with, I believe, some bones and a little skull in the middle. Perhaps practicing a little bit of dark magic there. Then we have a human monk, unmistakable, of course. The human monk in a very typical pose. Martial arts specialist. With the naked upper body, of course, and the baggy pants, and the boots, the laced up boots, and a very long braid. Also something you see a lot for monks in fantasy settings. So that is the human monk, nicely sculpted, very muscular. Let's see what's next. Another classic, the human rogue. You have to have a rogue in your fantasy adventures. So the rogue, of course, clothed in a leather armor. Something that's very supple and subtle. That doesn't make a lot of noise when creeping around and hiding in the shadows, wielding 2 daggers and a cloak with a hood. So yeah, looking very nice. So there is the human rogue. Then we have a human fighter. And again, let me focus on that. Female human fighter in what looks to be heavy armor. Not too heavy. Needs to be agile. She's got the shoulder pauldrons. She's got the boots with the knee guards. She's got a long sword. And nothing else, no shield, just the sword. And the scabbard on the back there. Long hair, again in a ponytail. Nice detail. A belt with a buckle. Yeah. Perhaps she likes wielding the sword with 2 hands. Then we've got another rogue, this time a half-orc rogue, wielding a small wrist crossbow and a scimitar. And she's got a long coat as well with big boots, big leather boots with straps. And she's got long hair, wild long hair. Another cape or cloak. She's got arm guards. So also well armed and armored, but again with supple leather, which rogues of course prefer. Let's see what this is. Here we have a half-orc bard. So half human, half orc, with an instrument and also a long saber. That looks very intimidating. It's quite the long saber. And a mug of ale, no doubt, in the left hand. And on the back, I suppose, a lute or some similar instrument. Looking very dapper indeed. The half-orc bard. Alright, then we have a small one. And this is a very brave halfling fighter. A halfling fighter wielding a small sword, standing in a very dynamic pose, ready to strike in the middle of battle. A small sword like Sting, you know, of course in The Hobbit. Which would be a dagger to a human, perhaps. But a sword, a short sword to a halfling. Looking very cool. Very brave, with a bag slung across the shoulder. So there's that. Next is a dwarf barbarian. Here he is, the dwarf barbarian, wielding dual axes like a berserker. That is really cool. With a big braided beard. Love that. And lots of fur. The upper body barely dressed. He's got a bit of tunic, you know, draped around him with some fur on the shoulders, a belt to keep it all together, and I guess he's wearing shorts of some kind because it's mostly boots that I'm seeing. So that is pretty cool. Very muscular, fierce looking dwarf barbarian. Very cool sculpt indeed. Let's check the next row. We have here a gnome druid wielding a staff, casting a spell with the left hand there. Long hair. And again with a cloak and a big backpack for all their stuff. Some knickknacks poking out there. Maybe those are little bottles with potions. Also looking really nice. Plenty of detail here on the chest, on the armor, and on the boots. There's a little feather, I guess, or a tied rope on the staff. Alright, next, a halfling monk. So another monk, this time a halfling, also very limber and lean, with again a bare upper body. And just baggy pants. On the back, there's a strap, or a couple of straps actually, over the shoulders. And not sure what they are for exactly. I don't see anything hanging from those straps, to be honest. And of course monks, they fight with their bare hands and feet, I guess. So another action pose here for the halfling monk. Then we have another monk, but this time it's a dwarf monk. Also pretty nice, holding up both fists. And yeah, he's got something, it looks like he's got something in his hands, or maybe that's just the way he's holding his fingers. Yeah, I guess that's just like a technique. Holding the index finger and the middle finger up, and the other finger is more clenched. The 5-finger palm exploding heart technique, or something like that. Very muscular. Look at those arms. with some clothes just wrapped around. Bald head and a beard. My kind of guy. Right, the dwarf monk. Then we have a halfling ranger. So again, a bit smaller character with a bow and a dagger. He's got, I guess, leather armor or light armor with a strap with a little pouch around the shoulder and a cape or cloak. Scabbard. No, that is actually the quiver for his arrows. And again, my bow seems to have bent a little bit too much, but again, just throw your miniatures in some hot water. I usually just boil some water, pour that in a cup or a bowl, and then just throw in any bent miniatures, let them sit in there for about a minute, and then scoop them out with a spoon, don't burn your fingers. And then just dunk them in cold water and they'll be right as rain. Here we have a gnome cleric. Little fellow casting a spell, no doubt, with the right hand holding a book of spells in the left hand. Yeah, wearing some clothes, some light armor, again a cloak or cape, robes, I would call them, on this guy. And he's got a beard and a mustache. And his hair combed back. Pretty nice sculpt. Again, little shoes there with clasps on them. Alright. The gnome cleric. Then we have a dwarf bard. A dwarven female bard, holding a dagger in the left hand and probably just casting a spell, or maybe just singing. The right hand raised, and again with what looks like to be just light clothing with a cloak, lots of cloaks, and long hair on the back there. Look at that, very long hair. And she's got a harp, I guess, on the back. That looks to be a harp poking out from under the cape on her back. Yeah, nice looking figure. Plenty of detail, as you can see. Alright, and then finally, in this set, we have a dwarven wizard. Look at him, a dwarf casting a spell. It's like he's casting a fireball or a Hadouken. That's really cool. It's a very cool pose. I like this one. With the long flowing hair, the big beard and mustache. Very cool. He's got these cool looking boots, the big billowing cloak, and robes underneath. That is a very cool pose. I like that. The dwarf wizard. Okay, next up we have the mercenary band 2. So that's all of these, which I will again show you one by one. Starting with the elf bard. So this is the elf bard. Tall figure with a scimitar in the right hand. We got not a lot of lefties. And this, well, what could that be? Classic form of acoustic guitar on the back. If anybody knows the correct terminology, is it a lute? They are usually of a different shape. It is fantasy after all, it doesn't have to be an existing instrument. But if you know, hey, put it in the comments below. Wearing a long cloak, has got long hair in a ponytail. And yeah, in a fighting pose. Some nice details on the clothing there. So that is the elf bard. Then we have another monk. This time it's an elf monk. A female elf monk by the looks of it. Again in a very dynamic pose, ready to kick. The long hair. The light clothing. You can see a bit of the lines where the parts were assembled, but nothing too bad. So that is the elf monk. Next we have a tiefling sorcerer. I haven't had any tieflings yet so far. So here he is, the tiefling sorcerer. Holding out both hands as if to cast a spell, of course. Not much else on him. He's just got the long coat and some items hanging from his belt, and there seems to be a shoulder strap under the coat there with some vials, I guess. And then there's these pouches. Some nice detail on the coat here once again. Looking good. A little curved horns. So yeah, tiefling sorcerer, there you go. Let's see what's next. Here we have a half elf fighter. Female, I believe. With the long hair. Holding a two-handed sword. A long sword, or perhaps even a bastard sword. With a heavily armored arms and legs. Long hair, broad-shouldered, scabbard on the back. Lots of detail. Very cool figure. The face is very well sculpted. Really lots of detail there for a lot of these figures, actually. Alright, really cool. Next we have another one that cannot be missed in any campaign. The innkeeper. Haha! This burly man holding a tray with mugs of ale in one hand and a mug upraised there in the other. Very nice. With the classic medieval hat. The big belly. And some pouches on the belt there, and of course some a cloth to do the dishes. And yeah, looking very, very cool. There's even some foam on the mug there. Nice. Very cool looking innkeeper. There we go. Here we have an elf paladin. There you go. An elf paladin with a embossed shield there. Some decorations on it. Very long cloak on the back, cape, and heavy armor, of course, for a paladin. Fully dressed from head to toe in heavy armor. No helmet though. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just a whole lot of armor, a shield, and a long sword, as is expected from a paladin. So an elf paladin. Can we see ears? We do see pointy ears on the side there. Very important for elves. Then we have a female human barbarian. Again, another barbarian with the double axes. Very cool. And cool design on the axes as well. I have a bit of flash remaining there that I will cut off. But looking really fierce with a scream on her face. And some heavy armor, a little bit on the shoulders, on the wrists, wrist guards, lower arms, and on the legs for the boots with the knee guards, and that's about it. The rest seems to be cloth to stay very nimble in battle. Very cool. I like that facial expression a lot. Dual wielding axes. Cool. Next we have another paladin, this time a dragonborn paladin, and there he is. Once again, as we have come to expect from paladins, fully dressed in heavy armor, with the tail poking out there. Big shoulder pauldrons there. And the feet are bare. He's got the dragon feet poking out. Probably hard to find shoes for that. Plus, I bet they can use their claws. And he's holding a... Is that a sword or more like a dagger? Well, his hand is pretty small there, actually. So it's like a short sword, but a very strange looking one. And a very draconic shield, which is pretty cool. Very thematic, with the fangs and the horns poking out from behind this shield. It kind of also looks like some kind of crustacean with a shell that has been fashioned into a shield. But yes, of course, the focus for this is his head, his draconic head with the horns. Horns everywhere. Very nice looking sculpt. Very tall as well. So that is the draconic paladin. Then we have another human paladin. This time a female human paladin who seems to be wielding a staff with a bladed staff there. Let me keep that in focus, please. Yes, bladed staff with heavy armor again poking out from under these robes. You can see the scales here on the armor on the upper leg. She's got long hair and a cloak. Nice detail again on the folds. Lots of folds. Yeah. So that is another human paladin. Then we have a half-orc ranger. Here he is. Fierce looking, with a huge longbow, drawing a arrow. It's got a sword there on the hip. Heavy chest armor. And arm protection there. Knee protection, shin guards. And a long cloak as well, the long hair with a clamp there. Pretty cool. The half-orc ranger. Next, another druid. This is a half-elf druid with another wooden and gnarled staff there, casting a spell in light armor. And with again some pouches on the belt. Nice how she has her hair there in a short fashion. Curly hair. Very curly. You can see a lot of details on the curls there. That's really well done. That's very good. Yep. No ears visible, I believe. So yeah, we'll just have to take it from their word that this is a half-elf druid. But of course, it's your miniature. You can always turn it into a human druid. Then we have a street vendor, another NPC. A woman holding up these trinkets, necklaces, and she has a big pouch with all her wares, no doubt. Wearing a skirt and long hair in a big ponytail as well, with the shoes there. It's common folk clothing, which you can paint nice and bright, I reckon, because she wants to draw attention to herself and her wares. That's very nice. A street vendor. Next, another druid, a human druid, this time male, with lots of robes and again stuff on their belt, and tall boots, holding a short sword in the left hand. This time we have a lefty, hey, and a buckler on the right arm, and a long cape. Really cool. Left-handed, with a beard and a mustache as well. So there you go, the human druid. Next we have a half-elf wizard. Female half-elf wizard in an action pose, casting a spell, and right hand she's got a staff which has been very warped. Again, hot water treatment. We'll fix that. They're straight out of the box. But that is a very cool looking staff. Is that a fire effect? Or what is it? Yeah, that does look like some kind of magic effect at least. It could be fire. It could be some other magical effect. But looking really cool. So yeah. Long hair. We do see some pointed ears poking out from that hair there. Alright, so that's that. Next up we have an elf rogue. An elf rogue. Again, pointy ears, clearly visible, and in a cloak, because of course. Leather armor with a dagger in the left hand. Could it be another lefty? He's probably ambidextrous. Rogues need to be ambidextrous, right? They can wield weapons in both hands. And ready to grab something. Maybe pick somebody's pocket. Who knows? Or grab somebody's weapon from their belt and unarm them. Or grab a person and put the dagger on their neck. Looks very good. Then we've got a male human cleric. Looking again very dapper, very brave here. Raising fists to cast some kind of spell, some kind of buff, no doubt. And wielding this hammer. Reminds me of the Hammerites from Thief. These holy men with hammers. But a very nice looking cloak with the clasps there on the shoulders. And a pouch on their belt. And armored boots. Probably fully armored. Actually in heavy armor underneath that tabard. And a pouch there on the back as well. Another pouch there. 3 pouches. It's got lots of trinkets and stuff because clerics need stuff to cast their spells. So there's that. Then we have another rare tiefling, a tiefling rogue with some kind of hood covering up most of their face. The horns, of course, are poking out. And there in the shadows is their face. And nothing in the left hand. This big, creepy looking sword in the right, jagged sword. The tail, of course, poking out. Although, yeah, well, tieflings do have these demonic tails, right? And in a walking pose with heavily armored leg guards and boots, and also on the arms and the chest. There's quite a lot, but I mean, this could be leather armor in layers. It does look riveted, but again, leather armor can also be riveted. But that looks really cool. Lots of clasps there. It's a very thick tail for a tiefling, though. That's kind of more like dragonborn. But that is a nice sculpt. So next we have a half-elf barbarian, wielding two very big cleavers, cleaver-like weapons. And yeah, he's male. He's got long hair and a ponytail on the back. He's got a bare chest with straps, leather straps once again. He's got the shoulder pauldrons. It's got some straps around the forearms, and I guess leather boots. Very muscular barbarian indeed. Again, lots of detail on the face there. Looking very good. Then we've got a dwarf fighter. Dwarves, natural fighters. He's very stocky and strong looking, and again very good face sculpt with a beard and long hair, a furrowed brow. He's got a shield on the right arm and a hammer in the left, another lefty. Haha. And then on the back his cloak, covering up most of the sculpt, of course. He's got these ornamented, I guess, arm guards. Part of the gloves, perhaps. The rest is under the shield. There is some detail there, though, well, as you can see, if it stays focused. So there you go. And on the boots as well. Dwarf fighter, like the runes there inscribed on the hammer. Okay, then a dwarven cleric, a female dwarven cleric here, with a shield, again with some kind of embossing on it. Not very defined. There's not a lot to see on there. But yeah, heavy armor and a flail. This does look like it is supposed to be like this, like another. It's a mace, but not necessarily one with a wooden haft. Possibly a chain, but maybe I'll see once I've dunked it into hot water. If it straightens out, then it might have just been a mace. But it works as a flail too, to be honest. I always like to think that clerics could have like an incense burner on a chain that can also be used as a mace. You just swing it around and knock it into your face. Getting good face sculpt there. Very fierce looking. And here is a dwarf druid. A dwarf druid holding a, I would say that is a shillelagh or shillelagh. I always mispronounce these things. But you know, like a wooden club made out of a branch with some wrappings. It's been a while since I've pronounced the word. A shillelagh or something. But that does certainly look like it. Plenty of detail again on the armor, as you can see. And on the face. Nice little sculpt. Fur on the boots. Then we have a gnome paladin. That's also a rare sight. A gnome paladin, this tiny figure with heavy armor and this huge battle hammer. Very cool. She's got long hair in a ponytail, kind of blowing in the wind. And yeah, definitely lots of armor. Lots of small armor. It's cool. A gnome paladin. Alright, almost there. This is a halfling bard holding a sword in the right hand and holding a lyre, I believe, a small harp in the left hand. Very close to her body. Again, very, very detailed face sculpt for such a small miniature. Nope. And a backpack there with all kinds of stuff in it. Little, yeah, I guess potions, little bottles. And their backpack has this bedroll. Nice little sculpt there. Then a gnome rogue. So we've got another rogue, again wielding two daggers, which look pretty big on this guy, of course. I'm sure they're just daggers. And yeah, leather armor. Fierce look on his face there. On the back, just the cloak. Lots of furrows in this cloak. So another rogue there. And then lastly, another dragonborn. This is a dragonborn warlock with this ritual dagger in the left hand. Very cool looking. I would hazard a guess and say that this is a female or dragonborn. Look at that face, the snout, very pointy. And lots of fur on this cape, a completely fur cape. I like the legs there. The double, well, the knee joint and then the ankle basically up here and then the long feet. It's very cool. So there you go. And those were all these fantasy heroes, the Mercenary Band 1 and 2. So let's move on to the rest of the figures in this box. So next up we have these figures, the classic creatures. And I'll start with the expansion set 1 here, which I have on the table right there. So let us start with the first ones, which are the ghouls. The ghouls. Let's have a look. Typical ghoul, I would say, in a very typical ghoulish pose. Like hunched over with the pointy ears. And you'd almost expect them to have like a limb from a corpse in their hand to eat. Look at all those ribbed muscles there. Very muscular and hunched over like an animal, like a feral human, or once was perhaps a human. Nice sculpt indeed. So there are 4 of those. Then we have 4 of these werewolves. Again, let's focus there. Also very muscular. He's got a ripped little jacket still hanging around the shoulders, and then some ripped what's left of their pants, I guess. Very clearly sculpted fur everywhere, as you can see. A bit more fur on the head from their hair, and of course the tail. Very feral looking, with large claws, of course. Nice looking werewolves. You can even see some detail on the teeth. Just a little there. All right, that is the werewolf. 4 of those as well. Everything comes in 4s. Then we have right here a bandit. Let me focus. There we go. These bandits here, human bandits, with a dagger in the left hand. Does remind me of that tiefling rogue we saw earlier, reaching out, wanting to grab something. They've got a pouch of coins, 2 even, bundles of coins on their belt. So you could use one of these as a rogue as well, but the coin purses do suggest they are cutthroats, bandits. Cut purses was the word I was looking for. So we have those also 4. Then we have these harpies, which are rather nice. Look at that. Harpies with the wings, of course, feathered wings. The bird-like claws on the hand and feet. Talons. Nicely sculpted wings. So those are the harpies. Really nice sculpts there. Then we got, let's have a look, 4 mummies. All wrapped up. Very typical looking mummies, shambling forward on the broken legs, you know, like these are just stumbling forward. You can almost hear them moan. Would work very good in HeroQuest as well, I reckon. So 4 mummies. Then we've got, let's see, 4 of these which are unholy knights. Kind of like revenants. Skeletons in full armor, knightly armor brought back to life with this enormous sword. A 2-handed sword. And a huge billowing fur cape. Or maybe it's just very ripped. And that looks really cool. Very, very cool. Heavy armor. Fully armored, except for the helmet seems to be gone, so you can see their skeletal heads, their skull there. Very cool. Unholy warriors. Then we have 4 of these dire wolves. You need some big wolves in your fantasy settings. Nice sculpted fur. You can tell lots of detail there. Really nice. And a feral face, snarling. So we get 4 of those. That's pretty good. Then we have 4 giant worms. Big worms coming out of the earth there. Burrowing out. And a sculpted base. One of the few figures that actually have sculpted bases. So that looks good. Like all the little pointy feet on the sides. Or perhaps they're not actually feet, you know, because he does seem to be very round. And maybe they're just like little horns that do propel him forward by just moving all of these segments. They kind of just burrow forward. I like the teeth there in the mouth. It's very cool. This is a very nice sculpt for the worm. Then we have dire boars this time. Large wild boars. Again, look at that nicely sculpted fur. A little tail there, the hooves, and the big tusks on the giant head. Relatively small body compared to the big head, of course. Huge shoulder section and a small hind section. Very cool looking dire boar. Very dangerous. So we get 4 of those. Then I have 3, but I'm sure you're supposed to get 4 of these gas serpents. They're just transparent white plastic, or just clear plastic, I should say. And they're pretty cool. They're hard to capture on the camera, I'm afraid. But maybe like this you can see a little bit better if I shade a bit more. Again, very nice gas serpents. Lots of detail. I guess you could also paint these as like flame serpents, but I like this. I suppose you only need to add a little bit of shading, maybe even some green ink to bring out the details, because there's a lot of detail going on there, as you can see. And when I shade it off a bit, cover the light, you can tell that there's definitely lots of detail on the scales there on the body. It's very cool. Right, so we have those. Then we have 4 of these bugbears. Bugbears wielding a pole arm, or whatever that's called. A halberd, I guess. Sort of. And again, looking very fierce. Nice looking head sculpt. Lots of armor. All kinds of different cobbled together armor. Like one big pauldron on the right shoulder there. And some straps across the body. Again, sculpted fur. Some arm guards. Very nice. I like the detail. The clawed feet. So that is a bugbear. Then we have these imps. Demon-like imps. They look like gargoyles as well. And the box does come with gargoyles as well, which look very similar. But these are imps. I guess you can tell by their scorpion stinger tail there, which is not something you commonly see on a gargoyle. As you can see there on the back, the segmented tail, and the leathery wings. So some imps there for you with the horns, and the very ribbed pectorals there. 6-pack, 8-pack. So we got 4 of those as well. Then we have 4 of these cultists. Right, let me zoom in on that. Cultists with a dagger in their right hand. And this clothing they're wearing is very strange. Usually cultists are like fully hooded, like in a long hooded gown of sorts. These though look different, which I kind of like. And they do have some kind of hood, but it's very raggedy looking and ripped, and doesn't cover their mouths. So that's even more creepy. I really like these. They kind of also look like bandits or highwaymen in a way. But yeah, these are cultists. They do look a bit more creepy. I would say these are cultists of Dagon, I think. It's what they remind me of. Then we have these transparent green oozes. Also 4. Really cool. Basically just a blob of ooze with a tentacle forming out of that, with these kind of like suction cups or some kind of mouth. This does remind me of a horror movie, and I forget which one it was, which also had monsters with these kinds of tentacles that kind of opened and closed. A long time ago. It must have been the 90s or the zeros. If anybody remembers what I mean, post it in the comments. It does remind me of something. But there you go. Oozes in green. Then we have some bigger sculpts, which I saved for last for this batch. This is an acid elemental. And this is the same sculpt as the fire elemental, which you haven't seen yet, but done in a green translucent plastic. And I believe they did that because the molds had figures they needed to make, and instead of then costing another fire elemental, they made this one green, so you had an ooze elemental, or an acid elemental, which is pretty cool. You know, instead of having to throw away or make duplicates of something that you don't need, they basically throw in these, which is pretty nice. It's a cool looking sculpt. Again, these transparent ones are a bit hard to capture all the details. You can kind of see the details on the face there. If I do this. But very cool. I would just like ink those or shade them a bit to bring out the details, and then let the rest just be transparent green. Next we have a large naga. There you go, look at that. That naga face, the tongue sticking out, and the very spiky crest. And then on the back here as well, look at that detail. A lot of detail here, and then it goes over into a smooth body, which does have some, you know, scales. You can make out the details of scales, but they're very smooth. But that is pretty cool. Look at how it folds. It's very creepy looking with that face there. This is nice. Naga. Then we have a rock elemental, or a earth elemental, if you will, made out of rocks. You could even make this a crystal elemental. But a nice big sculpt with a big hand. Clobbering hands made out of all these rocks. Very cool sculpt. Very well done. And that face there. You can kind of make out a face, you know, it's just a bunch of rocks that kind of resemble a humanoid form, which is pretty cool, like that. And then we have this air elemental, again in translucent white, which I will again try to, I guess that works. As if a big whirlwind suddenly got arms and a head. That looks really nice. Cool, cool, cool. Well done. So that's the air elemental. And then finally in this batch, the giantess, which is so big she didn't fit in the frame. Really cool sculpt. And I do believe we got this one in the first fantasy series, originally by Blacklist Games, Blacklist Miniatures, who basically were responsible for all of these sculpts as well, but then failed to deliver, ran out of money, at which point Wildspire Miniatures came in and saved the day by buying the rights and the molds for all of these, which were technically Fantasy Series 2. You can still find Fantasy Series 1 on my channel. That video is still there. I'll link it, and you can compare. But yeah, I think this one came with the first set as well. So another giantess there, really cool. I mean, look at all the detail. This is a big figure. And lots of detail on the face there. She's wearing some armbands. A little bit of cloth there for her skirt, with some leather strips with these rings on it. And this stitched together upper body piece. It's very cool. Wielding, of course, a big wooden club. Bare feet. Very muscular. Cool, cool mini. Well, mini. I say mini. It's a very tall mini. All right, let's go to the second batch. So, next up is the Essential set, which is this part here. And this set does have a couple of things, well, which are listed here, that I suppose are different if you buy the separate Essential set or this Classic Fantasy 1 box, because it has a couple of miniatures listed here that aren't in this set, but they are included with the heroes that we just saw earlier. For example, well, I'll name all three. There's the Demonkin Mad Sorcerer there. We have the Dragonkin Shaman and the Corrupted Half-Elf. These three you will not have four of, because those were basically these three, which I just took from the Heroes set. Again, here, this, the Demonkin, I get that's the Tiefling Sorcerer, which we already saw. This is the Dragonkin, also the Druid or the Sorcerer. So we have that one. And this Corrupted Half-Elf Warrior is just a Half-Elf Barbarian that we also saw earlier. So you only get one of those in this box with the heroes and not in this monster set, so be aware of that. But we do get some other extra sculpts that weren't originally listed. They were listed on the GameFound page, so we'll get to that in a bit. So the first ones of the smaller ones here is the Construct. And let me focus on that. There we go. This is the Construct, which is, yeah, kind of like a steampunk kind of golem. A machine man, which looks really cool. I like that. Reminds me of an entire faction of constructs from a game called Myth, which is now in the hands of Ulysses Spiele. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I like that. Cool looking figure. So we got 4 of those. Then we get a bunch of these transparent blue ones, which came with the water elemental, but they're not all the same. We get 2 of these Banshees, which is a female ghost that screams in the night and drives you mad. So that's pretty nice. I like that these are transparent. So there you go, blue ghost Banshees. 2 of those. And 2 just called ghosts. They are, let me see if I can capture that a little bit better. Just characters in a translucent blue, with a little bit of these flames, blue flames on their arms and everywhere, indicating that there's like wisps of, I don't know, ectoplasm coming off of them. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Again, you can tell the detail on the face there, little. So we have 2 of those. Then we've got orcs. Finally some orcs, some regular orcs. Try to focus on that. And you can see the orcish face. And it seems to have a little bit of trouble. There you go. That's sharper. And yeah, wielding an axe, long axe with 2 hands. It's almost a halberd. Very muscular, a bit hunched over, wearing some rags tied together with ropes. He's got, I think, a war horn on the side. These big, heavy armor boots. And some pauldrons there as well, or at least one on one arm. So we got 4 of those. Then we have 4 goblins when there's, oh no, these are the kobolds. Right, we do have goblins, but these are kobolds. The tiny dragonkin creatures. The dog-like snouts. Also very, very muscular. Small guys with the dragon feet. Got a dagger in the left hand and a sling in the right hand. Pretty nice looking. So we got 4 of those. Then, well, if you're afraid of spiders, scroll forward a little bit, because we've got giant spiders here. Look at that. Very nasty looking giant spiders. The large mandibles and somehow split abdomen. The back there. Lots of little knobs and points, and yeah, very creepy to the touch as well. Big bloated abdomen, and then the 8 legs and some big mandibles there. It's pretty cool, pretty creepy. So those were the spiders. Then we got 4 zombies. Can't go without zombies. We got mummies, now we have zombies. Again, shambling forward on these crooked legs, barely able to walk. These undead in their rags. And they kind of look like female zombies, although it's not entirely clear. So I guess they can be either. Whatever you want them to be. That would also work really nice with Hero Quest. Then we have giant fire beetles, which are these critters here with these very long legs, these strangely multi-part legs, lots of joints. And these seem to be fire beetles with mandibles not to the sides but on the top and the bottom, like those creatures, those bugs from Starship Troopers. That was a cool design. What a movie. But yeah, fire beetles. Big ones. So we get 4 of those. Then we got, I mentioned the fire elemental earlier when I showed off the ooze, or the acid elemental. And the oozes, well, these are magma oozes, which is exactly the same sculpt as the regular green ooze, but in transparent red. So again, they just used that mold twice because I understood that that mold was connected to other molds. So they just made them in different colors, which is kind of cool. I can totally dig this being a magma ooze. Very nice in a orange transparent color. Let's see. Then we have another classic monster, the Gnoll. This hyena beast man with a long spear and very muscular. It's got some improvised armor, some kind of helmet on the shoulder there with a strap. And a loincloth is basically what they're wearing, and some leather strips around the arms and legs. Very feral looking. That's pretty cool. Gnolls. Another very common monster in many fantasy dungeon crawlers and RPGs. Then, here are the goblins. We got 4 of those. Little goblins with a large short sword. So yeah, there we go. Nasty little buggers. He's also got a bow on the back, so they can attack ranged and melee. Another classic monster that you can use in Hero Quest. So we got 4 of those. Then we get 4 skeletons, which is a very cool sculpt, very different from other skeletons that I'm used to. Usually skeletons are very slim, of course, because, you know, they're skeletons. They're just bones. And they can be bigger or broader than humans because, you know, humans without the flesh is a skeleton. They have to be smaller and thinner. But these are pretty bulky. They have very large heads, very large skulls. And well, they're clothed more or less. They've got some rags and they've got these really big pointy pauldrons on the shoulders. They've got a buckler on the right arm and a broken sword in the left. Another lefty. Hooray for lefties. So that leads me to believe that these were like constructed skeletons from different kinds of species. Just thrown together, given a bit of armor, and then animated. Which is pretty cool. Different from any that I've seen. So I like that a lot. Also, yeah, good for HeroQuest. Then we have the gargoyles, which, if you remember the imps from earlier, do look very similar. But these don't have those scorpion-like tails. They are very muscular, very small, hunched over, with a smaller tail there. They look a bit more draconic as well. Also demonic with the horns, of course. That kind of makes it a typical gargoyle, really. Pretty small, too. Sometimes you see some bigger gargoyles. But, you know, in the end, they are sculpts that were sculpted and then animated. So they could be any size. But there you go. Gargoyles, 4 of those. Then we have a rodent of unusual size. Here, the giant rat, or the dire rat, whatever you prefer. Very, very cool. The long, segmented tail there, and the fur. The big teeth. The gnawing teeth. Giant rats in the sewers. So you get 4 of these as well. Then we get 4 troglodytes, these cave dwellers, which, yeah, look very cool, very unique as well. They look lizard-like, with lots of ridges and lots of spikes. Very, yeah, you can tell like their carapace almost on the shoulders and on the back. Very odd kind of lizard folk. Troglodytes. The big claws. Also very cool. So that's these. 4 of those. So let's take a look at the bigger ones. Here we have a troll, which also looks like a very classic D&D-like troll. The big human-like features with a big nose and the pointy ears, the long hair all the way on the back. It's almost a mane. Very tall, of course, with the cat-like legs, or I guess any kind of beast man kind of legs. And very muscular again, big claws, long fingers. Just wearing a loincloth really and some wraps around the arms. Pretty good looking troll. So there you go. Classic fantasy troll. Then we also get an ogre. Very large humanoid, bulky man. This ogre. He's got this little big snarl screaming with the beard. He's got some skulls around his neck. Trophies. Pointy ears. And this enormous club to bludgeon their opponents with. Very muscular, very large, also very classic fantasy style ogre. Cool. So we have that. Then we have a dire bear. or perhaps a werebear if you want it to be. Large bear up on the rear legs, huge front legs, front arms. So that's really cool. Again, very detailed sculpted fur. You can see the seams where at least the left arm was attached. Here on the front you can tell also the right arm. But otherwise I think this is just one single, maybe the head is also a separate chunk that was glued on. But that's a very big and intimidating looking dire bear there. Get one of those. Then again, the fire elemental, which as you will notice is exactly the same as the acid elemental that we had in green, this time in orange, transparent plastic, which looks very cool. Which I guess this sculpt was originally intended to be fire elemental. Then we also have in blue transparent plastic a water elemental, of course. We have all the elements. It's very nice. Splashes of water and waves at the bottom there on the base. And again, well, you can see that the body is kind of like a wave. And you can kind of tell the face sculpt there, right? It's again a little bit harder to make out, but it does look really nice. There's plenty of sculpting here. So that's the water elemental. You get one of those. So then we have 3 extra ones that are not listed on this leaflet, but were listed on the Game Found page. And that's this shambling mound. Here you go, a shambling mound, which is kind of like an amorphous humanoid cluster of leaves and twigs and branches and trees and stuff, and fungus, moss, which is pretty cool. He's got the mushroom growing on, there's a couple more growing on the back, all these vines everywhere. This is supposed to be the head. Plenty of vines. I remember a shambling mound from the classic Dungeons and Dragons cartoon that we had in the, what was that, late 80s. So we got a shambling mound, which I really like. We got a lich here. This is the lich. It's an undead necromancer, basically. And with a skeletal head, this ancient kind of robes, and this staff with, I believe, a skull on it. Some animal skull with horns, and some rags. So another villain, necromancer, lich, and this demon lord, which is also a big sculpt. This big demon with his sentient sword there with the eye in it, really cool. That's a very cool demonic sword, huge. And he's holding another demon's skull there, or just it's an entire head. It's not even a skull, it's just an entire head. You can see the facial features still. Some other lesser demon that was slain by this one. All the sculpting of all this mass, this bulk, the muscularity, and the wings, also very leathery wings. There's some sculpting here for the fur on whatever clothing he's wearing. Some fur around the waist. This metal belt. Very cool. So another evil villain to fight. It's a very cool figure. And I'm not quite done yet, because there's one figure still, and that is the dragon. Of course, we got a dragon, and it's huge. It's so big, I need to manually focus on it. So here we go. Big sculpt with the big wings. Came pre-assembled in the box. And look at that face. And this is the same dragon that we did get again with the Blacklist Miniatures Series 1 set. But this is a really cool dragon. Look at all the... It's actually very sharp and pointy. I just grabbed it here and that actually was very sharp. These things, so sharp. Ouch. There's all these ridges here on the back and on the tail. Look at this. If this hits you, you're dead. Deadly tail. But look at that. Look at all these details in the sculpting. It's very cool. The claws, the fangs, the leathery wings. There's the claws here on the wings. Very cool. That is a very nice dragon. Quite big. Just to compare to a regular figure. Here we go. Very huge. So that's a nice looking dragon indeed. And that's all the miniatures in the Classic Fantasy Set 1 by Wildspire Miniatures. And there you have them, folks, all the miniatures in the Classic Fantasy 1 box from Wildspire Miniatures, all laid out on the table. This is a lot of miniatures for one box. We got a lot of bang for our buck. Beautifully sculpted miniatures, really cool looking. So let's get back up top. So that was my unboxing of the Classic Fantasy 1 box by Wildspire Miniatures, who I'd like to thank for sending this over for me to take a look at. Also keep an eye out for my upcoming video of the Realm Reforged unboxing, which has a lot more fantasy miniatures also by Wildspire Miniatures. That's coming up really soon. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And please also check out my Patreon page by clicking the link in the description below or the icon at the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Board Game Heaven.